very gusty. You've got those dew points that are climbing, and it's getting dark as well. You'll see that sky darkening as we see that severe weather beginning to move in. So here's our risk. Mike kind of already broke down our general risk, but you'll notice a large hail threat for Duluth, Minneapolis, Mason City, Des Moines. That could make us reach severe criteria with some of these storms. We're watching as that hail parameter, or the likelihood of maybe getting some hail, it's building over the past 3 hours, and we'll likely continue to see this build a bit, which is going to help us get some of that hail growing to damaging size and maybe even severe size. So Minneapolis right now, you're still you still have some sunshine. The sun is still shining just a little bit, but you're in the lower 80s. You're also getting some dew points and some humidity. You're feeling that, your dew points in the mid 60s. So if you've been here for any amount of time in Minneapolis, you can probably feel the storms in the air. This is 5 o'clock. We're getting off work, right? We're trying to get home, and this is when some of these storms are going to begin to bubble up, and then you'll notice it becomes more widespread, especially as we get east of that I-35 corridor, east of Minneapolis proper, along that 94 corridor, heading into the later afternoon and evening. And that is when a lot of people are going to be on the road as they're getting off of work. So keep an eye to the sky. Make sure maybe you can time it to where you're leaving a little bit early or a little bit after those storms. You can see our torcons that we've got 2 to 3 higher as you look a bit farther north of line, maybe from Waterloo to Fort Dodge, a 3 for that torcon, and then a 2 in Des Moines. I know that is a low number on the scale, but it's not 0, which means we do have that possibility for an isolated tornado. Right now, we've got some rain and storms moving through the region here. Des Moines, you're going to start to see that rain picking up. This is a little bit messier in this region. You've got those showers and storms kind of bubbling up, but watch what happens once we get that front moving through. 7 p.m., we really see those storms kind of taking form in more of a linear nature, which sometimes lends itself to that damaging wind threat that we have. Also, that possibility for some large hail along that I-80 corridor. Des Moines, you're out of it as we head into the overnight, but we're going to continue to see that kind of pushing eastward into early Friday morning. So for a place like Green Bay, Sheboygan, it's great right now. Well, it feels like summer, but other than feeling like summer, you've got the sunshine, all is good. What's going to happen, though, is after sunset, heading into the overnight hours, we'll have these storms blasting in, and some of those are going to have a little bit of a punch to them. Some heavy rain, some lightning. You're going to have those thunder boomers waking you up overnight tonight. So if you want to avoid that, maybe you sleep with the earplugs or the sound maker, because these are going to be noisy storms moving through overnight into your early Friday morning there for Oshkosh and Green Bay. So, we're going to watch this whole line kind of progress eastward, Mike. But I'll say, what a lot of people are waiting for is the big cool down. And for some of us, it's not bringing that as you would expect a cold front to.
No, some are going to stay pretty much status quo.
Right now in Dallas, it's feeling like whatever your iced cold beverage of summer choice is. So maybe not even a coffee, maybe something completely different, but definitely not pumpkin spice latte. Now, your average high in Dallas is 88 anyways, but watch what happens as we head through the next couple days. 98, 96, 92, those are our forecast highs. So it has already been hot. It's going to stay hot. And as you know, there in Dallas, it feels even hotter when you have a little bit of humidity in the mix. Here's our setup. We've got this strong, dominating dome of high pressure, really encompassing really all of Texas as we're looking at this, and you guys are getting the heat out of that. That is stretching up into the upper Mississippi River Valley, over into the Great Lakes region. We are looking at well above average temperatures, but especially for places like Wichita and Dallas, where you are under the strong control of that high pressure. So over the past 24 hours, you'll notice if it was hot yesterday, it's even hotter today. Wichita, you're 8 degrees hotter than you were yesterday at this time. Dallas, you're 4 degrees hotter than you were. Billings, hey guys, 12 degrees hotter than yesterday at this time. Into this weekend, millions of us have above average temperatures that are continuing. Tomorrow, 160 million, 141 million by Saturday. And into Sunday, we see that area shrinking a little bit, but you'll notice for places like Indiana, Ohio, Mike, we are staying with those above average temperatures. And so between the temperatures and the tropics, it's like, where exactly are we in months right now?
A little second summer coming for a few places.
Take a nap in the middle of the day without that sun shining bright, because that's certainly what you're going to have, especially out around the Cape. In terms of the rain still to come, 2 to 3 inches certainly possible, but as mentioned, this system is so far off the coast that you're probably not going to get as much rain out of this the farther west you get. So Boston, Providence, you're going to get the gusty winds certainly, and that's just how the atmosphere works. You've got a low offshore like this. The winds are going to be gusty, but you'll notice that a lot of the rain really making it here around the Cape. Chatham, you've got gusts up to 26 miles an hour. You've got that rain coming down at a really steady clip. Just a few little light showers there northwest of Boston, but most of this rain is well offshore with the center of low pressure. Now, we'll get some of the wraparound moisture certainly, but this isn't going to be one of those types of systems that is just pummeling you with rain. It's going to be more pummeling you with the wind and the waves as well. So let's talk about this. We've got those winds continuing to strengthen as this low kind of just bobbles around. It's hanging out offshore, and this is when we start to talk about those impacts of those lows. It's not necessarily a tropical low or anything like that, but what it can mean for you if you're trying to head to the beaches, if you are dealing with some coastal erosion or coastal flooding, and that is exactly some of the problematic things that we're going to see across the Northeast this weekend. So dangerous rip currents. This is actually, I know summer is ending technically, but this is actually one of the best times to kind of be in the water there off the Northeast coast because the water's still kind of warm. But this is making it dangerous. When you have these kinds of winds, when you have rip current risk like we have, this is going to make it a dangerous time to be at any of those beaches. I mean, look at those gusts, 40, 50 mile per hour gusts in Nantucket. Better chance for some of that rain as well. So even though this low is staying well offshore, we're still feeling the impacts of that in the form of those very gusty winds. I know a lot of people love to put up those Halloween decorations, right? When we're getting to this time of year, it is going to be so windy, so gusty. You don't want to put any of those decorations up just yet if you can wait, because that low spinning off of shore is going to bring us that chance for those, witches taking off in flight or those big skeletons being blown around. The offshore winds just going to continue into the weekend as well. So if you're planning a beach visit, just know that it is going to get dangerous there for our coastal areas. With that, the rip current forecast for today, the southern shore of Long Island, around the Cape, Ocean City included in that. We've got high to moderate risk, but also this is sometimes subjective, because if you're not a strong swimmer and you're in a moderate rip current risk in, say, Atlantic City, that's going to be a high risk for you. That's going to be very dangerous. So you got to be careful as we're out there. Quick look at this, Mike. Those wave heights are just going to continue climbing, especially for our coastal areas, bringing some coastal flood problems.
Yeah, it could be a real issue there. And then in the Cape, and you're taking it off. Huge, like 75 pounds.
Wait,
like
how big is a 75?
Like that's like a golden retriever. Like a big. I always thought they were like this big, but they're like this big.
Yeah, I needed a rabbit by that wombat for reference. So welcome back to Weather Unfiltered. We've got your weather and all of your wombat knowledge.
We do. Everything you need to know. We are Wombat Unfiltered here. Thanks for being with us. All right, so a lot going on weather-wise. Yeah. The Midwest is probably the spot to watch today for storms.
Yeah, so let's take a look at Minneapolis, a live look. Because the biggest threat that you have, but it is there, so we want to make sure you know about it. And these storms are going to continue into the weekend, so we're going to have to kind of plan around that. You can see Saturday and Sunday, both days hit or miss. Although I do think Sunday might be the stormier day of the two. What you'll also notice, though, is look what is happening with your temperatures, dropping significantly by Sunday. And then into Monday, we're going from 83 on Saturday with the morning low at 65 to 65 as your morning high on Monday. So you're really seeing some big changes come. Not only are we getting these storms moving through, but with the rounds of rain that we're going to have over the next several days, you're going to see that rain beginning to add up. 2 to 3 inches where you see the darker green. Large, broad brush swath of 1 to 2 inches, but locally higher amounts certainly possible when you have kind of a juicy atmosphere like we have. You can see our low pressure, the first one that we're watching, and then our next system moving through. So a couple different things that we're going to have to watch. Here's Saturday. This is our disturbance over the southwest U.S. It's going to move into the central plains, and ahead of that, we are just bringing in all the moisture, which is going to mean rain for your weekend. In the meantime, a lot of people are sweating it out. It really is certainly not feeling like fall at all. Look at this. As we head into this weekend, everyone with highs at 80 or above, 211 million of us, a lot of us with that. I know 80 might not seem that bad, but a lot of these temperatures are actually way higher than 80. Heading into Saturday and Sunday, we're still seeing that. It is just, can't get out of this hot pattern, especially across, say, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, up into Kansas City as well. That heat is hanging around. You've got those temperatures well into the 90s. This is not the temperature that we should be seeing right now. 98 in Dallas, 99 in OKC. San Antonio, 95 for you. And then for a place like, say, Lake Charles, you throw in a little bit of humidity along with that 94. And, you know, a lot of people don't know this. When we're talking about 94 degrees, we're talking about that temperature in the shade. We're not even talking about it in the direct heat of the sun with the humidity or anything. So throw all of that in, and it is feeling even hotter. So Oklahoma City, you are going to be in the upper 90s today, tomorrow, and hold on, wait, just today, Thursday? Yes, today's Thursday. Mid-90s by Saturday, but look what happens. You get a front to move through, and those temperatures are much closer to average as we head into the weekend. I think you probably want it even a little bit cooler though, right? Because after all that heat, it's like, can I please just get some sweater weather? In terms of our average last 100 degree for a place like Dallas, on average, we should be done by August 27th, so we are passing that.
What's wild is it heightens all your senses of a hurricane without actually being in one, and lets you live that experience so you know what to do when one comes.
Yeah, and you know,
that's awesome.
We've both been out there. We've interviewed so many people who said, I wish I would have left. Maybe that will help people make that decision to go ahead and
You can do that in real time, too, with a forecast. That would be crazy, right?
Yep.
All right, this is the guy that we're going to watch, though. 40% chance of formation in the Caribbean. There's nothing there yet, but over the course of the next probably 7 days or so, something will form.
Yeah, you can see the development area looking a little wonky here because models still trying to decide exactly what they want to do with that. But both of our reliable long-range models have something, and that's what I think you want to latch onto with this forecast.
Yeah, you take a look at the European model, you can see the broad spin in here, and it may develop something in the southern or western Caribbean. So we're keeping an eye on that closely because once it gets to the Caribbean, it's going to make a landfall.
Right, exactly. The water temperatures are still very, very warm in the western Caribbean, in the Gulf of Mexico. So, we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this because, you know, the models are all over the place in what they actually want to do with this as well.
For sure. And you see the GFS a little bit more robust, and then north of the Yucatan Peninsula. So any interest in the Gulf of Mexico, heads up on this guy. And we're back right after this. Unfiltered severe storms starting to form across the Midwest. We're going to time out those storms for you and show you when the dangerous wind and rain arrives.
And it's hurricane season. As we know, the tropics are getting active. We're keeping an eye on an area to watch in the Caribbean as it could move into the Gulf of Mexico. Could be our next name system.
It could. We know this weekend, fall begins. You wouldn't know by the temperatures, though, really soaring. For about 150 million of us, it's going to feel a lot like summer. We're going to show you when those temperatures are going to spike right here on Weather Unfiltered. We appreciate you being with us. I'm Mike Bettis.
And I'm Felicia Combs, in for Alex Wilson this afternoon. We've got a lot to talk about, and, you know, it's the difference between above average temperatures feeling like summer, maybe a little bit of fall for some people, and then the tropics, of course.
The tropics are really interesting, especially what's going on in the Caribbean. We'll bring you some details on that because eventually it becomes a Gulf of Mexico problem, we believe. That may be about a week from now, though. But present day, it means storms for us across the heartland here, places like the Twin Cities. You're not out of the woods here. Des Moines has.
But if you didn't know it, if you didn't know storms were coming, you might not be prepared because did you see those skies in Minneapolis currently? Beautiful, bright blue skies, sun shining, which actually is not fantastic because that helps to destabilize the atmosphere. So one of the risks that we have with severe storms today going to be that hail threat. Some very large hail possible from Duluth down through Des Moines, Mason City, Minneapolis. I'm talking to you. You know, you only need about an inch-size hailstone to get into that severe parameter, but we could see better than that. We could see 2 inches, and that's, of course, going to do some damage. So here's our hail parameter. We are getting a little bit more favorable for some of that hail development over the past 3 hours over eastern portions of Minnesota, stretching down into northwestern Iowa as well. But what you'll notice is, other than that, it's still fairly quiet. Once this front kind of starts to move through, we'll see that bubbling up some of those storms. So in Minneapolis, you're sitting at 85 currently, well above average. You probably feel all that moisture in the air. That dew point is pretty high, so it's feeling kind of muggy as well. Timing it out for you, and this is what I was talking about. You hate it. It's been beautiful all day, right? You've been sitting in your office. You're like, oh, what a beautiful day. I wish I was, I don't know, frolicking at the park or something today. And then you're getting off, and here's what we're dealing with, these storms. So maybe if you could leave a little early, just time it out, especially if you know you're driving one of these main thoroughfares to get home, I-94. When you're talking about this type of rain, this type of strong storms, all of that blasting through, when everyone's just trying to get home, that can really impact your commute, and that's what a lot of us are going to be dealing with this afternoon. A Torcon of 2 to 3, draw a line from about Fort Dodge to Waterloo, and north of that, you've got that Torcon of 3 along I-35, Des Moines, a Torcon of 2. For you. So no, these aren't high numbers, but they're also not zero, which means got to keep an eye out for those alerts. We've got some rain moving through around Des Moines, 35, 80. You can see that there, that rain right now moving through Waterloo. We're going to see a better chance for those storms as we head into the second part of our afternoon and evening. So here are those storms rolling down 80. Creston, you're getting in on some of that. 7 o'clock, so Des Moines, say you get off work 5-ish. Hopefully you're home by 7 and you won't be dealing with this on the roadways, but you still need to keep an eye on these storms, because if you do find yourself in a tornado warning, in a severe thunderstorm warning that maybe has some damaging wind gusts with it, you still want to take that very seriously and make sure that you're not outdoors or, you know, watering the garden or whatever you might be doing. Beautiful in Green Bay currently. Oshkosh, you're going to have those storms rolling in after sunset. So for a place like Green Bay, you've got a beautiful day today, certainly hotter than it should be, but you'll have these storms blasting through, and that is going to bring us that chance for storms overnight. Now, Mike, places like Minneapolis are going to be waiting a couple more days for a cool down, but there are other places that are going to kind of see that switch flipped with this front.
And I think you're going to...
That looks hot. Right? Like it doesn't look like you're having like a nice cool time in Dallas right now. It looks hot. And the problem is tomorrow is going to be even hotter. Still well above average on Saturday. By Sunday, we're just a bit above average, but at least we're not up close to 100. Now, this is the setup. High pressure and strong control of our weather across the southern plains, stretching over into the lower Mississippi Valley, but also that high pressure is having an influence on our temperatures all the way up into the Great Lakes region. Your temperature in Chicago right now, 87 degrees. Now, we're going to get a couple fronts to move through for some of us, and that's going to likely cool us down over the next couple days, but that is not really where we're going to be across the southern plains. We're not seeing that big shift. Up above where we were yesterday, 24 hours ago in Wichita and Dallas, stretching over into the southeast as well. But you know what they say? If you are sweating it out, you want company sweating it out. Misery loves company, right? We've got a bunch of us, 160 million tomorrow above average into Saturday and Sunday. Now, by Sunday, that number does go down a little bit. You start to see that kind of wiggling away as those cold fronts move through and knock some of those temperatures down. But what you'll notice is it's not getting into the southern plains. It's not getting into the south where we're really hot. So that heat is continuing, 90s all across the southern plains, across the central U.S. But those temperatures overnight are also part of the problem. When the temperatures aren't being able to drop, that's still putting that extra stress not only on your AC and your wallet with that electric bill, but also on the body. The body feels those impacts when those temperatures aren't dropping, and it's just hot all day, and then it's not very cool in the morning, and then it's hot in the day again. You just can't get any relief from that heat stress. So the question is, where is fall? Well, it's not in Dallas or San Antonio or Houston, as the forecast temperatures are either at or above some of those record warm lows, Mike. And you know, if you could get a cool down in the morning, that's one thing. But when it is just never cooling down, it's a little bit much.
Day and night, you get no relief.
Out over Nantucket, the Cape is a bit messy with this system. Now, the system is well offshore, so that is good news as you head farther westward. But if you are around the Cape, then you're not getting any of those benefits, because you're still getting the very heavy rain and the gusty wind. Now, in terms of the rain still to come, this isn't going to be a huge rainmaker for Boston or down into Providence, but as you head farther east, you're going to be a bit closer to that circulation, a little bit closer to that low, so you're going to get some more rain out of that. Right now in Chatham, we've got those winds gusting to 26 miles per hour, that rain moving through Provincetown, gusting to 20 miles per hour. It is just a blustery, dreary day, but those winds are carrying inland. The rain might not be as big of a story right now, but the winds are gusty. 31 mile per hour gusts there in Providence. It's also very breezy in Boston. You've got a little bit of light shower action moving through in Worcester currently. We're going to continue to see some of that rain rotate around, and that is really going to be the story as we're dealing with this low pressure. Now, it is well off the coast. It would be a bit more of a hindrance if it was just a little bit farther west, but it's staying east. The problem is it's lingering around. It's not in any hurry to get up and get out of here, and that builds that wind energy up against the beaches. That builds the coastal erosion. That builds the coastal flood threat as well, and that's what we're seeing for many of these areas, not to mention the fact that those winds are going to be really gusty. I mean, look at this. When you're talking about 40, 50 mile per hour gusts there on Nantucket, you're talking about tropical storm force wind gusts. Boston, 35 mile per hour wind gusts. It is going to be such a gusty time for your weekend. I know it's that time of year where everyone loves to put up their decorations, right? You see the witches on their broom and the tree and everything, but if you're putting those up and they're not secure in this type of weather, they're taking flight. flight. They're going to be flying off. So if you are putting up those decorations, make sure you are securing them because this type of wind could blow them around. I mentioned dangerous coastal conditions as well for the beaches. This is actually still a really good time to head out to the beaches across the Northeast because the water's still a little on the warm side. So moderate to high risk of rip currents. So not the best time to actually be in the water. That's the problem. Even where you see the moderate risk for places like Atlantic City, and you might think, oh, that's fine. But if you're not a really, really strong swimmer, then this is subjective. That could be a high risk for you if you're, not a great swimmer. But I will say, even if you're a fantastic swimmer, a high risk of rip currents, you can't fight that. You're going to get taken out. You just got to make sure you don't panic and then eventually kind of swim parallel to shore and then in. I will say, though, it might not be the best time to be swimming in general because look at this wave forecast that we've got going on because of that low. Those waves are just going to keep growing, keep pounding at the coast. That is going to cause some of our coastal flooding, our coastal erosion, and it is going to make it just an absolute mess for trying to do any swimming this weekend. This is going to be the type of beach weekend where you don't want to be in the water. You want to be maybe on the sand, just looking at the water. In Boston, look at these temperatures as well. You've got the temperatures that are going to be mild heading into the weekend and a little bit of rain. Mike.
All right, Felicia, thank you for the planes. Boy, that fire can advance really fast.
Well, welcome back to Weather Unfiltered. Got a lot to cover here and something that we are watching, a couple different areas of low pressure of interest for multiple reasons.
Now, there's one that sits off the northeast coast that's causing a surprise.
Down a little bit over the next several days, but you got to get through the storminess first, and some of those storms could be on the stronger side. So there in KC, look at this. For Saturday, you've got temperatures up in the mid-80s. You've got scattered storms. Sunday does look like it could be an even stormier day than Saturday, but watch what happens to those temperatures. We're going from waking up in the mid-60s for Saturday into Sunday, into Monday, where our high is in the mid-60s. So the payoff is that you're going to get some fall-feeling air. The problem is the charge is that you have to deal with these severe storms. Now, we are getting some beneficial rain for some of this area as well. That could add up a bit. Broad brush, 1 to 2 inches, but some locally higher amounts certainly possible. Couple different systems that we're watching impact. You can kind of see the setup here, right? We've got that ridge that's keeping all of that heat just to the south, and then we're going to have our next system swinging in, and that is going to bring us that possibility for those storms, or at least up that possibility for storms as we head Saturday into Sunday. It's helping draw that moisture northward as well. So rounds of showers and storms, again, some of those could be severe, and that possibility for a bit of flash flooding. This is heading into your weekend, but a lot of this area actually really does need there. In the meantime, a lot of people are sweating it out. It really is certainly not feeling like fall at all. Look at this. As we head into this weekend, everyone with highs at 80 or above, 211 million of us, a lot of us with that. I know 80 might not seem that bad, but a lot of these temperatures are actually way higher than 80. Heading into Saturday and Sunday, we're still seeing that. It is just, can't get out of this hot pattern, especially across, say, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, up into Kansas City as well. That heat is hanging around. You've got those temperatures well into the 90s. This is not the temperature that we should be seeing right now. 98 in Dallas, 99 in OKC. San Antonio, 95 for you. And then for a place like, say, Lake Charles, you throw in a little bit of humidity along with that 94. And, a lot of people don't know this. When we're talking about 94 degrees, we're talking about that temperature in the shade. We're not even talking about it in the direct heat of the sun with the humidity or anything. So throw all of that in, and it is feeling even hotter. So Oklahoma City, you are going to be in the upper 90s today, tomorrow, and hold on, wait, just today, Thursday? Yes, today's Thursday. Mid-90s by Saturday, but look what happens. You get a front to move through, and those temperatures are much closer to average as we head into the weekend. I think you probably want it even a little bit cooler though, right? Because after all that heat, it's like, can I please just get some sweater weather? In terms of our average last 100 degree for a place like Dallas, on average, we should be done by August 27th, so we are passing that.
What's wild is it kind of, it heightens all your senses of a hurricane without actually being in one, and lets you live that experience so you know what to do when one comes.
Yeah, and
that's awesome.
We've both been out there. We've interviewed so many people who said, I wish I would have left. Maybe that will help people make that decision to go ahead and
You can do that in real time, too, with a forecast. That would be crazy, right?
Yep.
All right, this is the guy that we're going to watch, though. 40% chance of formation in the Caribbean. There's nothing there yet, but over the course of the next probably 7 days or so, something will form.
Yeah, you can see the development area looking a little wonky here because models still trying to decide exactly what they want to do with that. But both of our reliable long-range models had something, and that's what I think you want to latch onto with this forecast.
Yeah, you take a look at the European model, you can see the broad spin in here, and it may develop something in the southern or western Caribbean. So we're keeping an eye on that closely because once it gets to the Caribbean, it's going to make a landfall.
Right, exactly. The water temperatures are still very, very warm in the western Caribbean, in the Gulf of Mexico. So, we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this because, the models are all over the place in what they actually want to do with this as well.
For sure. And you see the GFS a little bit more robust, and then north of the Yucatan Peninsula. So any interest in the Gulf of Mexico, heads up on this guy. And we're back right after this. Here on Weather Unfiltered, we got some storms that are forming across the Midwest. For some of you, could happen around drive time. So we get details on that. When that wind, rain, and even hail form.
And of course, it's hurricane season, and the tropics are getting active. We're keeping an eye on an area to watch in the Caribbean as it could move into the Gulf of Mexico and impact us.
Yes, it could. And we know that fall officially arrives this weekend, right? Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Oh, but hold on, not so fast. Summer's still hanging on. For some of you, you might fall with 100 degrees. We'll talk more about those temperatures and when they spike.
It's just not okay. It's not fall when it feels like 100 degrees.
No, it is not, right? All right. Felicia Combs, Mike Bettis, so glad you could join us here on Weather Unfiltered. Plenty of stories to unpack for you here over the next hour. The most immediate threat is probably going to be the storms that we have in the Midwest today.
Yeah, and as we're watching this and timing these out, what we hate to see is, severe storms at all. But when a lot of people are getting off of work and they're going to be getting on the road, and that's what some of us are going to be dealing with. So we're going to time it all out for you. Now, we've already seen one round of storms and from underneath the influence of this basically heat dome that's in control of much of the U.S., but especially across the southern plains. So in Dallas, you should be in the upper 80s. That is not cool by any means, but it is not 98 degrees either. 97, 98, 96 heading into your weekend. By Sunday, when you're sitting at 92, it might actually feel like a little bit of a nice cool down, but as we know, it's still very hot. Here's the setup. Here's that high that I was talking about, that dome of high pressure, that basic heat dome, and of course, really having that very strong influence across the southern plains where we're closer to that center of circulation. We've got highs well above average, 10, 15 degrees above average, stretching from Texas all the way up through the Great Lakes, though. So Chicago, I'm looking at you guys in the upper 80s right now, above average, 95 in Dallas, 98 in Wichita. So if you thought yesterday was hot, Wichita, you're 10 degrees hotter than you were yesterday at this time. A little hotter in Dallas as well. And then, of course, those are your actual temperatures in the shade. That's not even your actual temperature in the sunlight or factoring in the humidity. All of us are sweating it out together, though, for the most part. There's not a whole lot of us that are actually having that fall feel as we head through the weekend. You can see tomorrow, 160 million people. Now, what happens is our next system kind of moves in, and it does start to chip away at those above average temperatures by Saturday. And then into Sunday, you're finally getting some relief for eastern portions of the Great Lakes or western portions of the Great Lakes region. But the rest of us, though, are still just absolutely baking with this heat sticking around from the southern to the northern plains over into the East Coast as well. And part of the problem with this is that we're not cooling off overnight. It's not like it's super hot during the day and then it cools off and then it's nice and chill overnight. We're still seeing those temperatures above average, which means your body is not getting a break to efficiently cool, and your AC is not also getting much of a rest. So in Dallas, in San Antonio, Houston, look at all of these. We are very, very close to record warm morning lows. That's how you're waking up. So you know it's warm when you're talking about that. Forecast in OKC, Lake Charles, really close to record warm morning lows as well. So, when you're talking about that, Mike, you know that it's just like so taxing. It's like, could I just wake up in the morning and get a breath of cool air? But nope. Can't get it.
Not going to happen day or night.
Obviously, that is, a key component. It's about how much erosion, how much push those waves have to move onshore, and we are getting kind of pounded by all of that up and down the northeast coast, and we've got a couple more days of this before all is said and done. Now, there's going to be quite a differentiation between the Cape, where you're getting a lot of that rain to wrap around, and as you head farther west, you're not getting as much rain out of this, but you're still going to be getting the wind and maybe some rounds of rain here or there, but you're kind of stuck in the rain right now around the Cape. Provincetown gusts at 23 miles an hour. Providence, Rhode Island, gusting to 35 miles per hour. That is up near a tropical storm force gust, and these winds are going to remain very gusty, that heavy rain continuing to kind of rotate through as we've got this center of low pressure. You can see it here. It's hanging off to the southeast of the Cape, directly kind of east there of Long Island, and it is creating some gusty conditions and some very rough weather for our beach areas. So here's our low pressure. You just saw the visual representation of it on the satellite and radar, and now you're seeing our graphical representation and what it's going to mean as we head into the weekend. You get that counterclockwise circulation around the low. It strengthens as well, which means those winds are going to continue picking up, and that is going to just hammer our beaches. That's going to keep those very gusty winds in the forecast, and we're going to get some wraparound moisture out of that. Take a look at these winds that we're expecting heading through today. I mean, out in Nantucket, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts there. That is tropical storm force wind gusts for you. Boston, 25, 30 mile per hour wind gusts. And as you know, 'tis the time of year where everyone's putting up their, what is it, like 10-foot tall skeleton or their little witches in their broom in the trees and stuff. And these type of winds are going to blow your decorations around. So keep that in mind if you're starting to decorate for the season. Make sure they are firmly secured. Also, though, keep in mind when you're talking about 40 or 50 mile per hour gusts, that could bring down some trees. And that is also creating a lot of wave energy. So we're getting the coastal erosion, we're getting the high surf, and we're getting the rip currents, which means it is not a safe time to be swimming in those waters. I mean, you saw what it looks like in Wellfleet, Mike, and I would not want to be in that water at all.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Healthy looking water spout, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Bettis.
And I'm Felicia, and for Alex. And of course, we're seeing that water spout, also seeing water issues in other ways around the Northeast. We're watching lots of stuff in the tropics. We've got so many different things that we're watching, but what we're watching in the Northeast creating some issues today, and that's going to be, picking up some groceries when it's time for the rain to start. So want to know when you'll be dealing with that. Heading into Saturday, we've got rain showers in the forecast, and we're in the mid 80s. By Sunday, you'll get a little bit of push of that cooler air, but you're also dealing with storms. Heading into Monday, rain still in the forecast, but look at what those temperatures do. We're going from waking up in the 60s, kicking off the weekend, to our high only in the 60s on Monday. So those temperatures are really going from well above average to dipping down into around where they should be for fall. Rain is coming to this region. 2 to 3 inches would be kind of a higher amount. Most of us broad brush 1 to 2 inches from this. Well, you can see what's happening here. This system is eventually going to kind of pull its way into the desert Southwest and then lift across the plains, and that is going to help bring us our chance for storms as we head through the weekend. So here's our circulation. Watch what happens. Ahead of that, it's like a little atmospheric vacuum cleaner, right? It's pulling up all the moisture out of the Gulf. It's feeling balmy, it's feeling humid, and that is giving our disturbance extra moisture to work with. So along with rounds of showers and storms, also maybe a severe storm or two possible. Wide area with possibility for flash flooding into Saturday and Sunday. Timing that out for you, you see our rain shield filling in from the southwest up into the Great Lakes region for your weekend. Might be the good weekend to get in some of that. In the meantime, a lot of people are sweating it out. It really is certainly not feeling like fall at all. Look at this. As we head into this weekend, everyone with highs at 80 or above, 211 million of us, a lot of us with that. I know 80 might not seem that bad, but a lot of these temperatures are actually way higher than 80. Heading into Saturday and Sunday, we're still seeing that. It is just, can't get out of this hot pattern, especially across, say, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, up into Kansas City as well. That heat is hanging around. You've got those temperatures well into the 90s. This is not the temperature that we should be seeing right now. 98 in Dallas, 99 in OKC. San Antonio, 95 for you. And then for a place like, say, Lake Charles, you throw in a little bit of humidity along with that 94. And, a lot of people don't know this. When we're talking about 94 degrees, we're talking about that temperature in the shade. We're not even talking about it in the direct heat of the sun with the humidity or anything. So throw all of that in, and it is feeling even hotter. So Oklahoma City, you are going to be in the upper 90s today, tomorrow, and hold on, wait, just today, Thursday? Yes, today's Thursday. Mid-90s by Saturday, but look what happens. You get a front to move through, and those temperatures are much closer to average as we head into the weekend. I think you probably want it even a little bit cooler though, right? Because after all that heat, it's like, can I please just get some sweater weather? In terms of our average last 100 degree for a place like Dallas, on average, we should be done by August 27th, so we are passing that.
What's wild is it kind of, it heightens all your senses of a hurricane without actually being in one, and lets you live that experience so you know what to do when one comes.
Yeah, and
that's awesome.
We've both been out there. We've interviewed so many people who said, I wish I would have left. Maybe that will help people make that decision to go ahead and
You can do that in real time, too, with a forecast. That would be crazy, right?
Yep.
All right, this is the guy that we're going to watch, though. 40% chance of formation in the Caribbean. There's nothing there yet, but over the course of the next probably 7 days or so, something will form.
Yeah, you can see the development area looking a little wonky here because models still trying to decide exactly what they want to do with that. But both of our reliable long-range models had something, and that's what I think you want to latch onto with this forecast.
Yeah, you take a look at the European model, you can see the broad spin in here, and it may develop something in the southern or western Caribbean. So we're keeping an eye on that closely because once it gets to the Caribbean, it's going to make a landfall.
Right, exactly. The water temperatures are still very, very warm in the western Caribbean, in the Gulf of Mexico. So, we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this because, the models are all over the place in what they actually want to do with this as well.
For sure. And you see the GFS a little bit more robust, and then north of the Yucatan Peninsula. So any interest in the Gulf of Mexico, heads up on this guy. And we're back in the Midwest right now, so we're timing out those storms for you. Dangerous wind, dangerous hail, even chances for tornadoes.
That's right. And it is hurricane season, and the tropics are getting active. We're keeping an eye on an area to watch in the Caribbean as it could move into the Gulf of Mexico.
And even though this weekend we officially usher in fall, it does not feel like it at all.
No, it doesn't. Sorry.
80s, 90s, for some of you, even 100 degrees. So we're going to talk about those temperatures spiking in the days ahead. But a lot going on for us, a lot to unpack here. Welcome in. I'm Mike Bettis.
And I'm Felicia Combs, in for Alex Wilson. I'm ushering in the fall temperatures with the
Yeah, did that work?
You know what, I have to tell you, I don't mind some mid-80s in the fall. I know a lot of people would really hate that.
You and Dr. Nab would get along so well. He does not like to be cold.
I want my iced coffee year-round, I think.
Okay.
Some of you might need some extra coffee on the drive home today. That we're seeing that sunshine there in Ames because, as you know, that sunshine helps to destabilize the atmosphere and could help to ramp up those storms a little bit. So one of the threats that we've got with the storms later today will be this large hail. Wherever you see the hatched area, those little lines, that is hail 2 inches or greater in diameter. That would definitely do some damage if you are heading on your afternoon commute. These storms are beginning to bubble up and you get stuck in some hail that large. That will easily break your windshield. This is where we're seeing some of those storms beginning to bubble up. Some severe storms out of this little cluster here across northern Iowa, southern Minnesota. That's lifting kind of ahead of that front off to the north and east. The hail parameter that you're looking at, that's what that purple is indicative of, and that is showing that we are seeing the conditions for the possibility of hail kind of get a little bit better within these storms, and those storms that are reaching severe limits have kind of maybe not verified officially on the ground level, but radar verified to have some large hail within them. So Minneapolis, 85 degrees right now. Your dew point's up in the mid-60s. As I just showed you, you've got some of that cloud cover building in. Watch what happens as we're getting into 5 o'clock. The model putting out some robust storms mainly west of that I-35 corridor. So heading home from work, those storms could begin to bubble up 6, 7, 8 o'clock. We're really seeing this line fill in as that front is moving to the east. So that I-35 corridor going to be a mess around that 6 o'clock-ish hour. Some hail, some damaging wind gusts, and some very, very heavy rain. That type of rain that is not really going to be helped much by your windshield wipers. You also have torcons of 2 to 3, Des Moines, Waterloo. You're in that torcon of 2, but draw a line from Waterloo to Fort Dodge and look north along that 35 corridor, and that's where we have a torcon of 3 today. 2 or 3 on the scale of 10, not huge numbers, but they're not 0 either. So we could have that possibility to get some of those storms with some rotation. Looking at this, Des Moines, you're sitting at 90 degrees. You've had some rain moving through there, 380, but as you look north, that's where we're seeing some of those severe storms. Now, we'll see a better chance for more severe storms heading through the evening into the early overnight hours as well. So here's 5 o'clock, storms blasting across 35, and then watch how that line fills in from Waterloo down through Creston, ahead of that frontal boundary that's moving through. If you are traveling, say, east-west on I-80, and for some reason you happen to be stuck kind of in that line of storms as it's moving eastward, that's going to be a rough ride for you. So that's why you want to make sure that you are timing it appropriately. Gorgeous. Well, maybe not gorgeous to me. Probably not the day, the mid-September day, right, that you want in Green Bay at 86 degrees. But I would say you got some sunshine. Not a bad day ahead of these storms. That's all going to change as these storms blast through into the sunset hours, overnight hours. Watch as that rain and storm chance blast in Oshkosh, Green Bay. All of you included in that Sheboygan, you're going to be getting in on that as well. Overnight into early Friday. Some of these storms are going to have quite a bit of thunder, lightning with them, so you might be getting woken up by these storms moving through as you head through the overnight hours. Some of them could have some pretty heavy rain as you're kicking off your Friday if you are an early commuter for Friday with some of that heavy rain around. So, it would be great if all of us are going to get a big cool down behind this. It's not this first system that's going to cool everyone down, but Mike, there are some places that are going to get a nice cool down out of this.
They will. So some places that are in the 80s.
Mid-September. You should be in the upper 80s anyways, but there's something wrong about being that close to 100 degrees this late in September, even in Dallas, and with a feels like temperature well up above the triple digits. That is dangerous heat for those people who work outdoors. If you're doing anything outside, you can see Friday into Saturday, we're still in the mid to upper 90s. By Sunday, yeah, I'm going to say, quote, we get a little cool off because we're in the lower 90s, but that is still above average. Here's what's going on. We've got this dome of high pressure. It's like a bubble of heat. And the closer you are to that center of that high pressure, like Texas, like really the portions of the desert Southwest stretching over into the lower Mississippi River Valley, it is just baking you. But we're seeing the impacts of that ridge all the way up into the Great Lakes region, really even stretching over into the Appalachians as well. 96 right now is your actual temperature in Dallas. Wichita, you are sitting at 100 degrees. You're at triple digits right now for your temperature in the shade. So factor in the humidity, factor in the sun, and it's going to be even hotter than that. We're 10 degrees hotter in Wichita than we were yesterday. At this time, 5 degrees hotter in Atlanta, Dallas a bit hotter as well. And as we head through the next several days, I wish I could say, going to have a front swing through Texas. It is going to be cool for you, but that is not quite the case, at least until we get to Sunday for western portions of Texas. You see, as we head through Friday, Saturday, into Sunday, we kind of chip away at that number of people who are looking at above average temperatures. So highs for the afternoon through the latter part of the week in the 90s. But the other part of this problem, it's like a puzzle problem that we've got going on here, is that the fact that the temperatures are not cooling off overnight either. You've got temperatures overnight where some of your afternoon highs should be for this time of year for portions of the northern plains. So tomorrow morning in Dallas, you could be waking up around 77 degrees. That would be very close to that old record warm low. San Antonio, Houston, very close to those as well. So that heat is just sticking around. And that's part of the problem when you're talking about this. It's not like it's only hot in the afternoon and then you get a nice, crisp, cool fall-like morning. No, Mike, we are still feeling like we are in the peak of kind of summer here, but also looking a little peak of summery in the tropics.
It really is. We've got
to that white car. Sheesh. So this is what we're going to be dealing over the next couple days. Now, the rain is going to be a bit of a gradient. The farther inland you get away from this low, you're not going to see as much heavy rain out of this. But closer around the Cape, especially the farther east you are, the higher likelihood you have of seeing more rain, very heavy rain moving through the islands right now. Look at this. Chatham, 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts, 29-mile-per-hour gusts as you look inward toward or inland toward Providence. So we're seeing these gusty winds. A 40-mile-per-hour wind gust would count as tropical storm force wind gusts there on the Cape. Here's our center of circulation. You can see that counterclockwise circulation here. Now, what you're seeing, what you're looking at currently is a satellite radar representation of our low. You see it there. Now, here's our graphical representation of where it's going to be tomorrow. Here's our center of low pressure. It's going to continue to kind of strengthen as it hangs around the next couple of days. You get that counterclockwise circulation of low pressure, and you've got those winds strengthening. So you've got the wind, you've got the coastal erosion, you've got those high waves, you've got that coastal flooding, and then also you've got some rain here or there rotating through. Take a look at some of these winds that we have in the forecast heading through our afternoon. I mean, just look at this. 40-50-mile-per-hour gusts as we're heading through tomorrow there in Nantucket, 25-30-mile-per-hour gusts in Boston. A 50-mile-per-hour wind gust is certainly enough to bring down a limb or a small weak tree. So you want to be very cognizant of that these persistent winds like we're going to have could start to cause us some issues. Not just that, but this is still the time of the year people that are liking to get out and enjoy some of our beaches here. The water is still fairly warm. It's still not bad, but it is dangerous with this low offshore. You've got rip currents and coastal flooding that's just going to be persistent as long as that low is hanging out there into the weekend. So high risk of rip currents for the south shore of Long Island, Atlantic City Beach there, Ocean City as well. But even say in Virginia Beach, where it says a moderate risk of rip currents, if you're not a great swimmer, if you're not used to swimming in the ocean, that moderate risk of rip currents becomes high real quick because it's kind of subjective, right? So take a look at our wave heights. Already seeing 7 to 10 feet waves, but as this low strengthens and continues to kind of build that wind energy, that wave energy, look at how high these waves are getting, especially well off the coast. So of course, well off the coast, but we know how waves work, right? They resonate away from the highest waves, and it still brings us higher waves up and down that east coast with the coastal erosion, with the coastal flooding. And this is throughout our weekend. So we've got days and days and days ahead of this. In Boston, by Friday, you've got those cloudy conditions, on and off showers Friday night into Saturday, and then we're staying cloudy into Saturday night as well. So Boston, it's not just the rain though, it's that coastal flooding that you're going to have to watch for there.
But they got some girth, like they're chunk, like they're full-bodied.
They're
You know what I mean?
They got big bones.
They're big bone.
They didn't miss any meal. Welcome back to Weather Unfiltered, and also everything you need to know about wombats.
where your place. All right, so a lot going on for us today in the U.S. when it comes to weather. No snow, at least not today. There's been some spots recently we've had some snow, but we've got a coastal storm, we've got severe weather, we've got a lot of heat that's happening right now. Oh, and we'll talk about the tropics as well. Let's start, though, out in the Cape. So Cape Cod, man, what?
So we're out just an isolated tornado risk. Problem is the storms are kind of going to be on and off there in KC for the weekend as well. So Saturday, you've got a little rain around in the morning. That eventually clears out. Sunday looks like the stormier day. What I think you'll probably notice even more as you're looking at this is we're going from the mid-80s on Saturday to the upper 60s on Sunday. And then by Monday, our highs are only in the mid-60s. So you're getting some relief from this heat, thankfully. We're getting some rain on the areas that need it. Some of this region in drought right now, so we do need some beneficial rain. Just hoping for no flooding issues. And right now, the broad brush forecast just pointing out maybe some pockets of 3 to 5 inches there where you're seeing that yellow, which we can handle over several days, but you just don't want to see so much that it causes flooding issues. Okay, so we're watching our first low that's kind of dragging that front across that we're watching for the severe storms today. And then our next system, you can see it swirling there off the coast of California, going to move over the desert southwest before it lifts through the plains. And out ahead of that, you get that persistent southerly wind, and it just sucks up that moisture. So that brings us rain and storms as we head through the weekend. It really is certainly not feeling like fall at all. Look at this. As we head into this weekend, everyone with highs at 80 or above, 211 million of us, a lot of us with that. I know 80 might not seem that bad, but a lot of these temperatures are actually way higher than 80. Heading into Saturday and Sunday, we're still seeing that. It is just, can't get out of this hot pattern, especially across, say, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, up into Kansas City as well. That heat is hanging around. You've got those temperatures well into the 90s. This is not the temperature that we should be seeing right now. 98 in Dallas, 99 in OKC. San Antonio, 95 for you. And then for a place like, say, Lake Charles, you throw in a little bit of humidity along with that 94. And, you know, a lot of people don't know this. When we're talking about 94 degrees, we're talking about that temperature in the shade. We're not even talking about it in the direct heat of the sun with the humidity or anything. So throw all of that in, and it is feeling even hotter. So Oklahoma City, you are going to be in the upper 90s today, tomorrow, and, hold on, wait, just today, Thursday? Yes, today's Thursday. Mid-90s by Saturday, but look what happens. You get a front to move through, and those temperatures are much closer to average as we head into the weekend. I think you'd probably want it even a little bit cooler though, right? Because after all that heat, it's like, can I please just get some sweater weather? In terms of our average last 100 degree for a place like Dallas, on average, we should be done by August 27th, so we are